Let's talk about if Mostly Intense Monster Defense is fun and whether it's worth your time. This game is really a true indie game with a dev team of only 1 or 2 people, but they actually did a really good job with this game. So it's a lane-based tower defense game along the same lines as the original Plants vs Zombies, but it has a dungeon defender theme to it. The goal of the game is really simple. You want to prevent the knights and other noble forces from crossing the bridge and entering your dungeon home. In order to do that, you place these towers with different abilities or attacks in order to defend the bridge, which, is the obvious tower defense element. The game doesn't really have the largest variety of towers in it, but there's a really nice counter element to it, where each tower does a really good job of countering certain enemy types that come along your way. It also does a really good job of making the game more active than some other tower defense games, by giving each tower multiple phases or modes that you can switch to within the game. So for example, the mage towers can rotate between either using a more damaging fire attack or an ice attack that slows the enemies down. In terms of game modes, you can play through either a story mode or an endless survival mode. The story mode's pretty easy until you get to the last few levels, where the difficulty really ramps up a little bit. It's also actually surprisingly funny, with a lot of jokes and a few pop culture references sprinkled throughout the dialogue. So I actually really enjoyed the dialogue of the story as a whole. Now, let's briefly compare it to Plants vs Zombies, which has a very similar core gameplay. Despite the similar core mechanics, there are obviously a lot of differences between these two games, most of which come from the fact that Plants vs Zombies comes from a larger studio. So Plants vs Zombies has more tower variety, more enemy variety, and just a much longer game as a whole. Mostly Intense Monster Defense, on the other hand, only took me a couple hours to beat the main story and finish the game. Mostly Intense Monster Defense is pretty funny, and the ability to sort of modify your towers actively during each game makes it a little more active than Plants vs Zombies perhaps. But as a whole, it really lacks the polish and features that Plants vs Zombie has due to Mostly Intense Monster Defense coming from a much smaller indie studio. So is it worth getting? I think it's worth the couple bucks that I paid for it on sale. If you're a fan of tower defense games, it does have a nice charm to it that's nice, and it's really enjoyable with the humor and level design. However, if you've never played Plants vs Zombies, I'd recommend that you play that first because there's just a lot more going on in that game. But if you want to try a different game in the genre, you want the humor of the game, or you really like the game theme, it's definitely worth checking out for a fun, short, pretty simple game. Just don't expect to pour 20 hours into it or something like that. Please like this video to help me out if you found it enjoyable or helpful, and I'll link some more of my reviews in the description down below. So yeah, thanks for watching.